This is Creality's latest, greatest, and possibly fastest bed slinger they have ever made. The best part is, it won't break the bank or your patience.
Hey, I'm Tommy, and this is the Creality High. It's Creality's latest offering and competitor to the Bamboo Lab A1 and Anycubic Cobra 3. It features a multicolor add-on called the Creality Filament System, or CFS, and it prints larger than both of those machines with a volume of 260 by 260 by 300 millimeters. And it's got more smart features than all of my previous machines combined. Creality also sent it to me and agreed to let me have some fun testing it against some of my other machines. Since I love my Ender 3s and this machine is essentially a next generation Ender 3, I thought I'd compare them to see what has changed for the better and for the worse. And ask the age-old question, should I upgrade or should I just buy a new machine? The specific competitor is my value modified Ender 3, which received $100 of upgrades in areas lacking performance, mainly extrusion and electronics. My other Ender 3, dubbed the Limits Ender 3, well, it's had more money put into it than the cost of the High and its multicolor add-on, so that's something, but ironically it's not fully working right now, and with a finale video on the horizon, I'm saving it for that. I apologise that I wasn't able to feature it. However, let's rewind to the unboxing of this machine and get to work. It's a pretty big box. Well, this is going to be a challenge. I'm pretty excited though. That looks cool. Here we go. This feels familiar. This is the newest printer I've ever owned. My newest other printers are 4 or 5 years old at least, so this is really exciting. The packaging as well was extremely well thought out, honestly. This is probably top 2, maybe #1 best packed printer ever. Considering I was just tinkering with an Ender 3 that was made, what, 7 years ago? You can understand how I feel like this. Nice instructions too, in every language. Nicest nozzle wrench I've ever seen included with a printer. Even a whole tube of metal grease. That's awesome. Here's the new main board. It's a bit more modern compared to the 4.2.2 and 4.2.7 boards I'm used to. That looks like a Meanwell power supply. Everything is nicely wired. Looks like it's grounded too. Integrated pulleys. Wow. Actually, I believe those are 9mm belts too. As someone who mods a lot of printers, I don't think I can modify this too much, but as long as it works well, I don't think I'll have a need to. I would show you guys the inside of the tool head as well, but unfortunately this right bolt has arrived stripped. The left one has not, but yeah, I won't be taking this thing off anytime soon. Oh, this is cool. Self-check process. Oh yeah, the bed's warming up. It's homing now. Now it's doing input shaping apparently. There we go, there's the input shaping I'm familiar with. Now it's auto leveling. Okay, it's actually probing now. Self-check complete. I'm gonna use this lovely purple filament. Look how pretty that is. And you see this little RFID reader here? Well, if I scan the Creality logo, there it is, there's the filament. That's so cool. Whoa. Well, there's the old bit of filament. Seems to be cooling down. Oh. I'm just gonna try and send a print wirelessly and let's get to it. It's found the printer on the network. We should be able to just hit send print. Oh, we can even view the camera. Oh, that's awesome. There we go, the model's been sent, it's now viewable on the screen. It's gonna start printing. I wonder how the leveling is. I mean, I haven't done the Z offset, it's just going. I've never had to not do that before. I think it's a little bit too close actually. I'm not sure how to change it though. Two hours, 54 minutes, pretty good.
This video is supported by PCBWay, who is your one-stop shop for leveling up your projects. With industrial material options such as titanium for CNC machining and 3D printing, carbon fiber laser cutting, which is awesome, aluminium SLM printing or TPU SLS, they have you covered for options. If you want PCBs, they can do that too and more, and no worries about how many you need, whether that's 10 or 1,000. If you need lightning fast prototypes, consider checking them out, first link in the description.
For clarification, here are the specifications again from Creality's website. The price, by the way, is $299 for the base machine from what I've heard, and $469 for the combo at the time of recording. This places it higher than the cheapest machines Creality has to offer, but I'd recommend hearing the features and my experiences first before dismissing it. Once again, a build volume of 260 by 260 by 300mm, which is more than most bed slingers in this category. It has a lovely responsive touchscreen, which is refreshing, USB, Wi-Fi functionality, which both work great, step servo motors, which I found to be very precise and capable, and I've had no issues with the advertised speeds of 300mm at 12K acceleration, and the pre-compiled settings on the slicer are nicely done. It's also got a little camera with a very little light that I found surprisingly useful, built-in accelerometer for input shaper calibration, and of course a filament runout sensor. Fully direct drive, a tri-metal nozzle, fully automatic strain gauge bed leveling from what I can tell, and I mean fully automatic. There is no input needed. It is fantastic. A 100-degree heated bed and a 300-degree max nozzle temp. Built-in storage for G-codes, a nice magnetic epoxy build plate, and a power draw of 1150 watts at 220 volts or 390 at 110 volts. Most of this energy goes into the rapidly heating 1000 watt heated bed. The CFS, on the other hand, has a much simpler spec sheet, and it works well. It holds up to 4 spools, has a 20 watt rating at 24 volts, a simple screen, but notably is not compatible with TPU, according to Creality, as well as damp BVOH or PVA filament, as well as warped cardboard spools, which does make sense. You should have no issues with dry and new spools though, especially since one of the highlights of this machine is being able to print supports using PVA and then just dissolving them off for a clean finish. I would test TPU regardless of what they said, but I accidentally toasted my only spool not too long ago. As someone who tinkers with machines, more than I print, this machine is refreshing, because I've maybe had 2 failed prints and only due to my ignorance, with not cleaning the build plate after touching it, leading to adhesion issues. Otherwise, this machine just works. It's a bit strange saying that, since I've never really been able to before. When slicing apart in Creality Slicer, which is surprisingly decent and up to date, presumably being a fork of Orca Slicer, you can easily import this machine's settings and choose whether or not it calibrates before the start of a print. I haven't found there to be too much of a difference changing the setting, but it's so easy to just enable it and get back to work. But this is genuinely the first printer in years that I can confidently not watch the first layer go down. And even if I need to and it's in the other room, the camera saves the walk most of the time. Okay, let's now actually get to the comparison thing. There are 5 models I would like to print, each one at 3 different speeds. 100mm at 5K acceleration, 200mm at 10K acceleration, which is what I print at usually, and then a bonus of 350mm at 30K acceleration, is what I would have said, but it seems this machine has a locked acceleration of 12,000, which is alright. I don't print much faster than that anyway, but it would have been nice to play around and see what could really be pushed with this machine. As for now, these speeds are fine, so let's get to the test prints.
It just looks like there's an issue with the perspective. But no, it's a really long benchy. Check out this totally normal benchy. Since most of my print time was for parts on the Ender 3, I only had a bit of time for a couple of multicolour ones, but I was really pleased with how they turned out. The dice took about 2 hours and the skull took around 7. Since this was my first experience with multicolour printing using an AMS, I quickly realised how much time it adds to the prints and the amount of waste it produces. However, this is just how the technology works, not exactly how Creality has implemented it. Still, multicolour and multi-material has its uses for sure, and I look forward to using it more to print soluble supports and mixing and matching different plastics in the future. On the left we have pretty much everything I've printed on the High, and on the right we have everything printed on the Value machine. These here are the parts for the Ender 3, and as you can see that black piece there was not printed on the Creality High, and it is probably my worst looking 3D print ever. However, I later reprinted them and they turned out super nice. And for the first time I actually had a machine I was confident enough with using to actually just have some fun 3D printing. I printed out a really tall benchy, a really wide one, another really wide one, and of course the absolutely massive one. I think the little multicolour prints are cool, but they're not really my thing. Interestingly enough, I found that the quality doesn't differ too much between all these different prints. As you can see, the left print is a bit cleaner. There's a bit of rippling or whatever on the right side. I think that's possibly due to belt tension. You can see it pretty clearly there, whereas on the other model it's not really, well, no, it isn't there at all. Bit hard to see, but there's a couple of gaps in those layers. It could be due to a variety of different factors. As you can see, the layer quality is far superior on the high compared to whatever machine I printed that on, the Ender 5. Night and day. There's some minor stringing on the skull, but because it's a multicolor print, I'm gonna let it get away with it. I'm still super pleased with this skull. It turned out really well, and it's pretty small as well. The dice was also pretty tricky, but the 0.4mm nozzle definitely helped. The top surfaces aren't perfect, but luckily that's a slicer setting that we can change. Extrusion is definitely cleaner on the high versus the value Ender 3. And I'd say the top surfaces look a lot better as well. There is noticeably more ringing though. The Autodesk calibrations turned out pretty similar, although I did, in my clumsiness, break some of the spires, but that's alright. The stringing is not that good on either of them, but luckily that's another setting we can change. I'm very pleased to say though that all of the dimensional accuracy tests passed. Every single little cylinder was able to be removed from the holes, which is awesome. And in all honesty, I kind of feel that print quality was pretty consistent throughout the 3 speeds that I did, so that's good. Overhang performance is better on the high compared to the Ender 3, by a pretty good margin, I'd say. It's actually done really well with overhang performance. That's awesome. Good speed too. How long was this? 1 hour and a half. Interestingly enough, the bridging actually looks better on the Ender 3. Yeah, for some reason, the extrusion just later on this benchy, and then on some of the other prints too, just got really bad on the Ender 3. Not sure why. So these 3 benchies took 21, 32 and 35 minutes, so let's get some close-ups. Speed is something I'm obsessed with, for obvious reasons, but reliability and especially ease of use are other key factors that have grown on me over time. Since the high is fast enough for me, I'd like to talk about the latter. Over the last few years, machines have pivoted more and more towards the user experience heuristic, which is a double-edged sword. However, for the average, I just want to print consumer, it's for the best. Machines like the original Ender 3 are dead easy to replace parts with and tune and do whatever with, but the high is a bit more closed off, although this is probably for the better. I did stumble through Creality's wiki and it's very fleshed out with a ton of information. I was a bit unsure about the belt tensioning on this machine originally, and they had a nice guide already set up. Still, I don't know where I can order replacement parts just yet, but I'm presuming that the instructions Creality has provided will do the job and parts will be available soon enough. Speaking of user experience, Wi-Fi connectivity, specifically print uploading, is so useful. I haven't manually transported prints in a very long time on the Enders, or on any machine really. For reliability and ease of use, the high is just outstanding. Once again, and as you saw in the unboxing, assembly was super easy, although my genius still got stuff wrong. But it's way better than machines from a couple of years ago and beyond, that is for sure. In this day and age, even I can't recommend getting an original Ender 3, despite their benefits. Sure, learning the ropes can be fun, but for most of us, the ropes we want to be learning are CAD and mechanical design, not wondering why my machine isn't working. I'm pleased to say I'll be using this machine a lot more in the future, and you'll see it in upcoming videos too. Ultimately, do I recommend the Creality High? Yes, I do. I didn't cover everything about this machine or CFS in this video, and it's never really my goal to be your one-stop reviewer. When researching a product, it's always advised to cross-reference reviews and get as much information as you can. If you have any questions, I'll do my very best to answer them, but as for now, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully, I'll see you again soon.